After being banished from the underwater city of Otoh Gunga, the Gungan Jar Jar Binks was wandering on the surface when he came face to face with the Trade Federation's droid army. Showing a clear lack of intelligence, Jar Jar does not make a move to avoid an oncoming droid transport carrier, and is fortunate to be saved by Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, ducking to avoid a certain death. From flipping to his feet, the Gungan follows the disgruntled Qui-Gon, who calls Jar Jar brainless. Jar Jar wants to speak, but Qui-Gon cuts him off, deeming that the ability to speak does not make one intelligent, trying to get rid of Jar Jar. Even more annoyingly for Qui-Gon, Jar Jar believes he owes Qui-Gon a debt for saving his life, and is able to take him to Gungan City as a safe route to the capital city of Theed. But what if the ability to speak made Jar Jar intelligent? How would Jar Jar respond? Would Jar Jar still guide them to Gungan City? As you're about to see, Qui-Gon's words will transform everything. After thanking Qui-Gon for saving his life, Jar Jar wishes to help the Jedi Master, but Qui-Gon was focused on the mission of warning the Naboo of an invasion, wanting to be rid of the Gungan as quickly as possible, and find his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi. Nonetheless, Qui-Gon believed in the will of the Force, and it was the will of the Force he had met Jar Jar. Despite how clumsy the Gungan obviously was, the ability to speak did at least give the creature some intelligence. Deciding to bring the Gungan along, Obi-Wan also escaped the droid army, and they had to find a path to Theed. Jar Jar bravely headed to the city from which he had been banished of Otoh Gunga, and they swim inside to the shock of the natives. Jar Jar is able to avoid punishment from Boss Nass by guiding Qui-Gon to Theed, where they are able to rescue Queen Amidala. With their hyperdrive hit, they are forced to land on Tatooine, and this is where Jar Jar's ability to speak truly starts to affect the fate of the galaxy. After their Naboo Royal Starship is hit, Qui-Gon, Jar Jar, Padme and R2-D2 head into Mos Espa, and into Watto's shop. In the shop, Jar Jar is able to negotiate the parts for Republic credits, and the Jedi leave without hostilities, but also without Anakin. They would have to hope they hadn't just lost the Chosen One to the Rising Sith. As soon as the Jedi arrive on Coruscant, Qui-Gon reports of Jar Jar's heroics, and he is soon sent to assist Queen Amidala in the Senate. Jar Jar asserts his authority with an inaugural speech, condemning the lack of activity repelling the invasion of Naboo. In response, before Palpatine could persuade Queen Amidala to call for a vote of no confidence, Jar Jar's words convinced Chancellor Valorum to send security forces including the Jedi to Naboo, joining the Grand Gungan army. With a sudden turnaround in Valorum's stance on Naboo, this forces the Jedi Council into more action, not only sending Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, but also Grandmaster Yoda. On Naboo, Captain Tarpals wants to make Jar Jar general in the fight against the droid army, but Qui-Gon has a better idea. Assigning Jar Jar to assist the Naboo security force along with Obi-Wan, the group make light work of any destroyers and battle droids to capture Viceroy Gunray. In the throne room, Jar Jar convinces Gunray to perform a remote shutdown of the Federation's droid control ship, as he ordered the lowering of the shields, allowing the Bravo Squadron to fire their torpedoes into the ship. Back in the hangar of the Theed Plasma Power Plant, Yoda and Qui-Gon are astonished by the appearance of a Sith, as they have been hidden for 1,000 years. Nonetheless, the Jedi manage to defeat the Zabrak, capturing more with Gunray. While celebrations ensue on Naboo, Senator Palpatine is displeased. The intervention of the Gungan Jar Jar Binks had foiled his plans, and was now a threat to his plans of becoming the Supreme Chancellor. Jar Jar needed to be eliminated immediately, tasking his new apprentice Dooku to carry out the deed. The Sith were unfortunate that Jar Jar continued to remain one step ahead, whether by fortune or his intelligence, managing to evade a number of attempts on his life. Palpatine did however manage to create a secret clone army away from the Republic, soon to be deployed, confident that Valorum would be voted out and he would be voted in. Ordering Dooku to create a disturbance on Geonosis, the activity of the Confederacy of Independent Systems becomes a prominent fixture in Senate debates. Having just managed to survive his previous term in office, Valorum buckles under the continuous pressure to take military action. Jar Jar, who is representing the planet of Naboo, allows Senator Palpatine to call a vote of no confidence, delighting the Sith Lord. At last, he would ascend to the ultimate position of power. But as the voting from the representatives of all of the planets commences, Palpatine's demeanour changes, as Representative Binks is voted into the position of Supreme Chancellor. Once again, Jar Jar thwarted the plans of the Sith. The first move made by Jar Jar was to give himself the power to create the Grand Army of the Republic, just like Palpatine had wanted to do himself. Delaying any further action until Obi-Wan had reported to the Jedi Council about Dooku's army, Jar Jar consults Senator Amidala, whom is on a retreat on Naboo with Mace Windu as her guard. Despite her continued attempts at peaceful negotiations, the situation had turned critical, and the army was needed. For Senator Amidala, at least Jar Jar would have control over the army, hopefully bringing a swift end to the inevitable conflict. On Geonosis, the Jedi managed to rescue Obi-Wan from his shackles, but not only do the Jedi suffer many casualties, but Dooku escapes back to Sidious. For the two Sith, they had achieved their goal of starting the war, and only Jar Jar stood in the way of the extermination of the Jedi. Until he was removed, they would have to wait. Across the planet, the Jedi Council were having a similar discussion about the Gungan. After hearing Obi-Wan's report of Dooku on Geonosis, they were aware of a Darth Sidious lurking behind the scenes of the Senate. With Jar Jar being a likely target, the Jedi are on duty to thwart any potential assassination attempts, even recruiting other Gungans to confuse assailants. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are soon dispatched to the planet of Christophsis to battle more separatist forces. After claiming a well thought out victory, Yoda sends Qui-Gon to Tatooine with Jar Jar, as they need to give assurances to Jabba the Hutt of the safe return of his son. Arriving on the sandy planet again, Qui-Gon felt a strong presence, a beacon in the Force. With limited time, Qui-Gon flies to Mos Espa and to Watto shop again, despite the presence getting slightly further away. Watto is hopelessly looking round his shop when Qui-Gon arrives, also searching for Anakin. Guiding Qui-Gon to the Skywalker home, the Jedi Master has to pull Jar Jar away from a nearby store, spotting two Tuskens running away. Qui-Gon runs from Watto and pursues the two assailants, leaving Jar Jar stranded. As the Tuskens head to their own hut, Qui-Gon ignited his green blade and massacred any raiders standing in his way. Inside the hut, Qui-Gon used his lightsaber to cut the bindings off of all of the prisoners, some of them already dead for days. But Anakin and Shmi were amongst the survivors. Both visibly weak, Qui-Gon carried them both, but with Jabba the Hutt to attend to, he needed a faster way to get to the Hutt's palace. A whirring from above answers his prayers, as somehow, Jar Jar convinced Watto to fly the ship to Qui-Gon's location. Leaving Watto at the mercy of the sand, they fly to Jabba's palace, where Jar Jar is able to assure the Hutt of Rota's safe return. Moving back to their ship, Qui-Gon receives a message from Obi-Wan that they have rescued the Huttler from the planet of Teth. Happy with the progress made, Qui-Gon senses danger. Looking through a cloud of sand, Qui-Gon sees Jar Jar flash, then quickly disappear. Following Jar Jar into Mounds of Dunes, the Gungan is nowhere to be found. Running back to his ship, he tries to spot Jar Jar from above, but as expected, the Supreme Chancellor vanished. Reporting the news of Jar Jar's disappearance, and the slaves Qui-Gon had rescued, the Jedi Council deploy all of their Jedi to track down the Supreme Chancellor before the news broke to the galaxy. They are also extremely annoyed at Qui-Gon for his diversion, in rescuing a Force user who was too old to be trained, and his mother, claiming they had sabotaged the mission. Qui-Gon is unmoved, and begins his own search of Jar Jar. Flying back to Coruscant, the Jedi Temple is a lot emptier than usual, and Qui-Gon knew he needed to be alert. Hearing a cry from outside, the Jedi Master rushed towards it, and saw that several temple guards had been struck down. Following a trail of blood, Qui-Gon is soon joined by a group of clones, tracking to the base of the Supreme Chancellor's office. Qui-Gon orders the clones for a speeder, and he jumps in. Hovering above the office, Jar Jar is being tortured by Dooku, and to the Jedi's surprise, Chancellor Palpatine. Despite Jar Jar being able to manipulate most scenarios, Qui-Gon knew the Gungan would not last long under the Sith. Qui-Gon asked for the clones to inform the Jedi Council of the location of Jar Jar, whilst he created a diversion. Throwing his lightsaber at the Chancellor's window, the glass shatters, and the Sith turn around. Whilst they're distracted, the clones throw smoke grenades into the room, and chaos ensues. The Sith used the Force to censor free Jar Jar, but clones continue to obscure their path. Forced to cut them down, they fail to notice the returning Jedi arriving from other worlds. Dooku is soon force pushed into a desk, losing his lightsaber which is picked up by Master Windu, placing his blade next to the throat of the Sith apprentice. But on the other side of the room, Sidious has a lightsaber to the neck of Jar Jar. The Jedi and Sith stand off in a stalemate, but Jar Jar has other ideas. Subtly removing his cloak, Jar Jar athletically ducked underneath the blade before Sidious could react, and used his tongue to project a fallen lightsaber towards Qui-Gon, who killed the startled Sidious. The Jedi thank Jar Jar for his instincts, before Qui-Gon reminds them of Anakin and Shmi. Leaving them in the capable hands of the healers in the Jedi Temple, the Council meet to discuss what to do. Whilst Anakin would normally be far too old to train, his midichlorian count was beyond Master Yoda's, and would surely be an asset to the Order. According to the Council, freeing Shmi was not a good idea, as attachments of any kind were forbidden. Qui-Gon was disappointed, as this had been a contentious issue between him and the Jedi ever since he had stepped within these walls. Perhaps there was somebody who could help them see the light. Issuing a message to the healers, a hobbling but still energetic Jar Jar stood in the council chamber, and immediately broke into a dramatic and eloquent address, making the Jedi rethink their ancient code. Watching as Jar Jar limped out of the room, Qui-Gon knew he had been right to keep Jar Jar alive on Naboo. That is it for What If the Ability to Speak Made You Intelligent. If you enjoyed this, please like this video, and if you're new to this channel and my other channel, subscribe for more tips, as 73% of you watching are still not subscribed. And as always, leave a comment on what if you'd like to see next, and how I can improve my videos. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.